This is a music review. It's the third album by David Bowie called The Man Who Sold the World. It was originally released in the US in November 1970, but the release in the UK was delayed until April 1971, mainly because of Bowie's unhappiness with the front cover on the album. The cover that went on the US version showed an American symbol, a man with a 10-gallon hat standing outside a lunatic asylum, and there was a bubble suggesting an exploding head, and the inference was particularly noted that the American had a slight resemblance to one John Wayne, but in reflection Bowie didn't like it, and so he convinced the record company in the UK to change the front cover, and it was released with him laying on a chaise lounge in a stately home, dressed in a male dress, which seemed to be particularly relevant given his androgynous view of things and how people saw him. So anyway, third album, and it was a complete change of approach after the first two albums that had generally been folk rockish in their content. This was very much hard rock, not heavy rock but hard rock. It was produced by Tony Visconti, who also was involved in the bass work on the album, which is very substantial. But the rest of the band were basically the band that Bowie took on tour, which led to the infamous Ziggy Stardust success. It's suggested through Wikipedia that the music was basically put together by the band, Visconti and Ronson particularly, because Bowie had just got married to Angie and was spending a lot of time with her, although the lyrics to the songs are all Bowie's work. As far as how it was received, critically it was received very well amongst most people, but it didn't sell very well at all, although in latter years it's been regarded as an extremely solid effort, and I will get round to the review of it now, track by track.
So the opening cut then on The Man Who Sold the World is the width of the circle. It's 8.5 minutes, and I must admit I first heard it on John Peel's show way back when, and what struck me about it, and it still does today, is how heavy it is. It's considering this came after the huge hit Space Oddity, Bowie's vocals are almost drowned out by a combination of a heavy rhythm section with some absolutely elusive bass playing by the producer Tony Visconti, and some magnificence from Mick Ronson on guitar, who really does blow it all out of the park. I was really amazed at some of the guitar playing. Bowie's vocals are great, but he comes in and out really. There's large parts of it which are very instrumental, and there's some extremely good synthesized added in by one Ralph Mace, and this proved really the launching pad for the Spiders of Mars, which were to follow and become hugely successful with Ziggy Stardust and Hunky Dory. But this opener, 8.5 minutes, The Width of the Circle, is really something to be heard. Turn it up loud as well, and listen to that bass, which really melts in your ears. It's really, really intricately played. And of course Mick Woodmansey on drums as well. A great opener. So to the lyrics then, of Width of the Circle. Well, David Bowie's reputation for in-depth lyrics stand alongside him really, and it's awfully difficult to interpret them, but I guess on this particular track there's a reference to Gahil Gibran, a Lebanese-American writer, poet and visual artist who was quite famous for mystical words, published a piece called The Prophet. There's also some references to God, the devil, and possibly another mystical supernatural being, and the suggestion that David may have had sex with them, and there's an obscene joke as well about having sex with your friends, and that's interpreted within this song. And to add to the mix, there's a couple of references to children's nursery rhymes, Tellybet's Picnic and Humpty Dumpty, but I guess unless you're an expert you probably wouldn't spot those. But let me just quote some of this lyric for you to give you a flavour. Verse 4, he swallowed his pride and puckered his lips and showed me the leather belt round his hips. My knees were shaking, my cheeks of flame. He said, you'll never go down to the gods again. That's the reference to the nursery rhyme. Turn round, go back. He struck the ground, a cavern appeared, and I smelt the burning fit of fear. We crashed 1,000 yards below. I said I'd do it again, turn round, go back. His nebulous body swayed above, his tongue swollen with devil's love. The snake and I, a venom high. I said, do it again, turn around, go back. Breathe, breathe deeply. And I was seething, breathing deeply, spitting sentry, horned and tailed, waiting for you. References there to this possible devil Beelzebub image, and also some implications towards his androgyny. So there you have it. Those are my few comments. The Width of the Circle, superb opener. Track 2 then, After the Madman. There's a nice gentle acoustic intro that leads into David's childlike vocals before flutes and medieval noises are added to the mix, and then the band brashly put their foot forward and the rhythm takes us off. The music rises, floating into a madness, with Ronson shining with his overdubs on the guitar, and then quirky children's rhymes. The pace quickens somewhat to a more prog rock feel after the midsection, before Ronson brings the track back to the pop carnival, and there's a soaring guitar solo, and the chaos ensues as we head to the outro. It's pure sonic madness really, and lyrically of course it references a psychiatric hospital, a sanitarium, whatever word you want to call it. And of course David's brother spent some time there, but here he's in the first person, and it appears early on that the tentacles from this institution are reaching out to David, and then he quickly becomes an imbabe, misbehaves, but has a sense of feeling safe, wanting to stay, wanted to stay crazy rather than go free into the sadness outside. There are also references to lobotomy, and again I'd just like to read a little piece. This is the pre-chorus, gives you a flavour. So I tell them that I can fly, I will scream, I will break my arm, I will do me harm. Here I stand, foot in hand, talking to my wall. I'm not quite right at all, am I? Don't set me free, I'm as heavy as can be. Just my Librium and me, and my EST mates 3. So I think you can get a flavour of what we're dealing with here. A magnificent track. So too, Black Country Rock, track 3. Thudding bass brings this track to the forefront, and there's a great Ronson riff before David hooks the chorus line in tandem with Mick as he hits that crisp, silky solo. Ronson's riff is as catchy as it gets. It swings with venom and the angelic harmonies. And there's a nice little piano touch on the outro. Bowie's sort of imitative vibrato in the final verse. Lyrically, well, Black Country is an area west of Birmingham. I always thought it had something to do with farming, but I might be miles off there. Many people, because I do some research on these, suggested that it was a reference to cocaine, the use of cocaine, and the lyrics, if it's much too hazy, suggest some drug-induced state. And here's an extract from the lyric. Pack a pack horse up and rest up here on Black Country Rock. You never know, you might find it here on Black Country Rock. Pack a pack horse up and rest up here on Black Country Rock. You never know, you might find it here on Black Country Rock. Some say the view is crazy, but you may adopt another point of view. So if it's too hazy, you can leave my friend and me with fond adieu. Track 4 is After All, an acoustic ballad with haunting backdrop. It sounds like a soundtrack to a western set in the Americas, movie that is. An eerie feel on the horns, which plod like a funeral march. Certainly macabre harmonies, and a lot of mellotron added, I think. It's very dark, and the lyrics, well, it's a song full of mystery. Beliefs are timeless. In other words, what people believed 100 years ago are the same as what they believe now. It's now it's same as to whether you're young or old, and life holds down some destiny, holds the same destiny. Death, of course, and attachments that we have are rather pitiful as we search for meaning, which ends up getting us nowhere. Well, that was my collective view on this song. Beautiful, though. An extract from After All. Please trip them gently, they don't like to fall. Oh, by jingo. There's no room for anger, we're all very small. Oh, by jingo. We're painting our faces and dressing in thoughts from the skies from paradise. But they think we're holding a secretive ball. Won't someone invite them? They're just taller children. That's all, after all. Man is an obstacle, sad as the clown, oh by jingo. So hold on to nothing and he won't let you down, oh by jingo. Some people are marching together and some on their own, quite alone. Others are running, the smaller ones crawl. But some sit in silence, they're just older children. Jingo, I think, is an abbreviation for jingoism, which is basically warlike aggression, activity, and very much suggesting the sheep following the pigs, to use Orwell. Next up is Running Gun Blues, and a nice acoustic intro with wacky comedic-like vocals from Bowie. And then a standard rock riff brings forth that wicked bass and Ronson's guitar way back in the mix early on, and some faint harmonica briefly. There's a hint of slide guitar filtering in as we reach the outro, but it fails to develop, I would suggest. Lyrically, this one's about war, specifically Vietnam, reference to Under the Beds with the communists, and then a realisation of danger and fear, and that wretched post-traumatic stress disorder, another kill round the corner. And a brief extract for you coming up now. I slashed them cold, I killed them dead. I broke the gooks, I cracked their heads. I'll bomb them out from under the beds. But now I've got the running gun blues. Vietnam, of course. Saviour Machine fades in at a fierce speed, very rocky, and then David's soft-spoken story unfolds, and he shrill-like delivers the vocal, which creates that mood of serenity, and then that tasty guitar with mellotron sounds, and that wacky style vocal that David enjoys. And then we get into the fast blues riff with the bass and drums just absolutely wicked. I love Bowie's vocal variety on this track, so versatile. And then we hear some trumpets, pipes maybe, or trumpets, probably courtesy of the mellotron, but however, they sound beautiful, probably borrowed from Sgt. Pepper, and they give it a sort of majestic medieval feel with some terrific, which makes it a terrific track. And then there's an extravagant Ronson solo, very jazz-like, I thought. Lyrically, it's a dig about the lack of separation of state and religion, I thought, and how the population don't really get it, and how the reality of war is often linked with religion, and therefore it's not exactly something to be trusted. And here's a brief example of the lyric. President Joe once had a dream. The world had his hand, gave their pledge. So he told them his scheme for a saviour machine. They called it the prayer. Its answer was law. Its logic stopped war, gave them food. How they adored till it cried in its boredom. Please don't believe in me. Please disagree with me. Life's too easy. A plague seems quite feasible now. Or maybe a war. Or I may kill you all. Yeah, lots of impact in that. Track 7 is She Shook Me Cold. It's got a sort of Hendrix wah-wah guitar intro that gets us moving. This is heavy rock, and it shuffles to a standard rock beat, and then Visconti's bass quickens the rhythm, and then the bridge links to mixed guitar wizardry and that whippy solo style that he's renowned for, and it competes with the bass for Major's honours to Your Senses. It's ferocious and heavy and wild. The soloing's wild. It's a real journey, and it stinks of a jam, really, that live feel. Lyrically, it's a tale of a young woman and a youth's early promiscuity before being hit by that woman who hooks the man in. And this thought that one wants to relive that feeling again. And here's an extract. We met upon a hill. The night was cool and still. She sucked my dormant will. Mother, she blew my brain. I will go back again. My God, she shook me cold. I had no time to spare. I grabbed her golden hair and threw her to the ground. Impressive, isn't it? Next up's the title track, The Man Who Sold the World. There's a nice chord riff that opens up this seductive, slow, rock-style riff. And then Ronson just hooks you with that guitar melody. Nice low-key organ and percussion as well adds to the mix that makes it soft and inducing. And in comes David's persuasive vocals. The choral vocals by Bowie link in towards the outro. It's really easy listening for sure, and a real strong track. Lyrically, I think it's about an old friendship that you've grown away from, one that left you bitter or just a lost memory now. The chorus is about your role in public, I think, as a rock star. Let's have an extract. We passed upon the stair. We spoke of was and when. Although I wasn't there, he said I was his friend, which came as some surprise. I spoke into his eyes. I thought you died alone a long time ago. Okay. So to the final track then, the Supermen. It's got a really wacky style, eerie sound from the vocals that introduce that punchy, heavy rock beat. But the eerie sounds are the significant factor in this, behind David's lead vocals. And those vocals, very wacky in style. And then another highlight is the zany Ronson lead solo towards the back end before it crashes to an end. It's a powerful piece of music. Lyrically, David's, I think it's David's view on gods and past gods, revered souls. I may be wrong here, and how folklore, magic, and mysticism ruled the planet, and to some extent still does, and where unity and equality was ruled by this so-called special one, and then a hint at our great galaxy in the large picture. And here's a bit of an extract anyway. When all the world was very young and mountain magic heavy hung, the supermen would walk in file, guardians of a loveless isle, and gloomy browed with super fear, their tragic endless lives could heave no sigh. In solemn perverse serenity, wondrous beings changed to life. Well, you read the lyrics and you make your interpretations. So, in summary, this album by David Bowie, I must admit, the more I listen to this album, the greater I appreciate the impact it had. And it didn't really do that well in relative terms, particularly in the light of the smash hit, single hit, Space Oddity. But I think it really laid the foundations for Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust, and should be acknowledged as such. And there's some really great songs on here, and it really told us a lot about David Bowie. And so it's The Man Who Sold the World, released in 1970. And just to finish off, if any of you out there are basically struggling to get copies of the music that I review here, or any other albums that you might have, or any other albums that you might want to have, and you can't get hold of, I'm introducing a sort of new free service initially to my followers. If you want a copy of this album, or if you want a copy of any album, get in touch with me and tell me what you want. If I've got it, you can have it. I'll have to use the internet to get it to you. Google Drive is a good means of sending file sizes that are comparable with MP3. Maybe through Facebook Messenger, but copyright, of course, comes in, so I can't send them to you via YouTube. But there are ways and means, and I just want to encourage people to listen to this music, particularly the old stuff, of which I'm a member of that community. So keep listening, keep enjoying, and let me know what you want.